Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Amanda Wolfe, and I'm a lecturer in the Department of Psychological Science, and this is my research video. So I've had a lot of different kinds of research experience across my academic training to now, but my current work I see as kind of everything being related to two main areas, and that's cyber-psychology and human sexuality. Cyber-psychology is the study of online behavior, or how we use technology in our day-to-day lives and how that technology influences how we think and feel. Human sexuality, well, that kind of describes itself, but that's a huge discipline of study and takes into account lots of different aspects that relate to humans and all aspects of our sexuality. So if we think about that first area, cyber psychology, the things that I'm really interested in are online learning, which is a major component of my job here at Kennesaw, but also online belonging, which is the idea that I belong or matter to a online group. Online belonging is related to the concept of belonging or mattering, which we usually talk about as a face-to-face construct. But in fact, we can talk about how that translates to the virtual or online world as well. Right now, I'm doing a SOTL project. SOTL is the Scholarship of Teaching and Learning, and it's where we examine what's effective and what variables are related to student success. For me, what I'm really interested in is gamification. Gamification is where we take gaming elements and we apply them to the classroom. You've probably had this experience with something as simple as like a Kahoot quiz. That's technically a game. For me, I have a project that I've just finished phase one of, which is where I was studying the effects of leaderboards. For phase two, I'm going to study a little bit more about puzzle-based gamified elements to again see, do these things actually change a student's engagement and their success in the class, but also does that engagement with the class make me feel like I belong more? And that's where I tie together gaming, belonging, and online education all together. My interest in gaming actually comes from my dissertation, which was on video gaming, particularly MMORPGs, which are massively multiplayer online role-playing games. My dissertation really focuses on how people who play those games, what factors influence how long they play. Is there a particular motivation for play that means that players play more? Or is it related more to things like stress, loneliness, addiction, that sort of stuff? So I've had an interest in gaming for quite some time, not only in my personal life as a gamer, but also when we think about an academic setting and studying it from a research perspective. My other main area is human sexuality, and that really relates more to the practical or applied part of my training. So one of my master's degrees is in mental health counseling, and my PhD is in counselor education and practice, which is a doctoral program that teaches you not only how to be a better counselor, but also how you train counselors to be good counselors. From that practical, applied aspect of my life, I focused on human sexuality as my specialty. Even though we talk about sex a lot, and there's a lot of sexual images in our media, sex is still a very taboo topic. And so because of that, there's a lot of misinformation, misconceptions, and bad education. I've worked for several years as a sex educator, and I've educated almost every age group you can imagine, including undergrads, graduate students, and running continuing education workshops for people who are already licensed professionals in the field. So because of that applied focus, I'm very interested in how we can best teach sex to a variety of age groups, but what do people actually know, and how does that misinformation affect their day-to-day lives? From a research standpoint, my current work is really more about diversity. I'm very interested in sexual, gender, and relationship diversity. Not only what are the needs of diverse people, but also making sure that all the work that I do has a diverse sample around those constructs. For example, I'm currently collaborating with a colleague over in conflict management, and the project that we're working on is emergency preparedness. Now that might not sound like it relates to my two areas of interest, and emergency preparedness is something I'm trained in as a counselor, but is not something I do a lot of work in professionally. But our research is going to be looking at the insight, awareness, and preparedness that college students have around emergencies. And one of the things that I'm really interested in us pulling from this research is if there's a difference in those things with our students who have a diverse identity. I'm also kind of interested to look to see if our online students have any differences as well. And that kind of blends both of my areas together. But given my role here at Kennesaw, another key part of my job is making sure that I'm available to provide mentorship to undergrads on their own research projects. So far, I've supervised 2 senior capstone students who did their own research projects, and I've lost count on the number of honors students that I've supervised over the years on their smaller scale projects. So I'm really interested in any student who has a project that's even somewhat related to these 2 areas so that I can provide good mentorship to them on their own projects. Another key aspect of these videos was to talk a little bit about how we got here. So as I said, I've had a lot of different experiences from the time of undergrad to now. When I was an undergrad, I knew that I needed to have research experience because that's what got you into graduate school. I worked with 2 professors, and I was very thankful that they took a chance on me, but their projects weren't really a good fit because they weren't things I was interested in. In my bachelor's of psych, I worked with a professor and his doc student on a priming phenomenon study, and I don't have any interest in priming phenomenon. And my second bachelor's degree is in child and family development, and I worked with a professor in that department on a project that was about eating disorders and traumatic experiences. And I'm interested in those things as a mental health professional, but not really as a researcher. So these projects were an excellent fit because they got me into graduate school, but they were a poor fit for actually making me excited about doing research. It wasn't until I got into graduate school and started working with other graduate students on projects that were much more related to the things that I was interested in that I found that I actually enjoyed research. When I was a doc student, my advisor told me, well, now it's time for me to take the lead on things. And that was really exciting. I had actually been keeping a notebook of the things that I had wanted to study someday. So I found that I was much more interested and much more passionate about research when it was on topics that I was interested in. Even still, though, I worked with a lot of people on projects that were not tied to these things. So I did a project on religious literacy and religious competency, and I really enjoyed that project and learned a lot from it, but it's not really tied to my passion areas. And in fact, my dissertation, even though that was a great fit in the end, was not my original dissertation topic idea. I had a topic idea that was on something completely different, and the IRB basically told me that that was not going to fly and I was going to have to redesign entirely. So I picked an entirely different project. And fortunately, that turned out really well because that dissertation topic really ignited a passion in me about cyber psychology. So I say all of that because I think it's really important that you, as people who might be considering going to graduate school, recognize how important it is to make sure that you get in, but also that what you pick is a good fit for you, because it'll make your experience a better experience. At the same time, you also want to make sure that you try lots of things, because it's only until you try them that you might realize they're not for you. That's one of the reasons why it's important for all undergrads to have some experience with research. So I really saw these videos as an opportunity for you to learn a little bit more about the work that I'm doing and my interests, but also kind of a trajectory on how I got here. So mine's a little convoluted, but I think that's true for many of us, that we tried a lot of things until we found the things that we were most passionate about. For me, I really want to make sure that any of the undergrads out there that are interested in doing projects related to these 2 things, you're welcome to reach out to me. But also, if you're considering getting a master's degree in mental health counseling or have never heard of counselor education as a PhD program, you're also free to reach out to me to talk more about those things. I believe right now I'm the only faculty member who has a PhD in counselor education and practice. And so if that's something that you think you might be interested in, feel free to drop me a line and we'll talk more about it. Normally, I would say just swing by my office, but given that we're currently remote, I would say just send me an email and maybe we'll schedule a Skype call sometime to talk more about research, your ideas, or graduate school. We wanted to keep these videos very brief, so I will end the same way I end a lot of my video lectures, and that's just saying, I'll see you online.